yes. There we go. And this one. Why is this not working? Oh, there it is! Yay! There we go. Now we are live on YouTube as well as Twitch. And while we're here, why don't we do, let's see here. Where's my music? Where's my Eine kleine Knock music? I might as well just play it manually. Where is that? Is that a... Oh, I should have this. Ah! No! A creeper got me while I wasn't looking. Not fair. It was daytime. Where is it? There it is. Okay. Eine kleine Knock music. Officially, we are beginning. Wait, I don't hear anything. Do you guys hear something? Is it just me? Is there something that's just like... do you guys hear the starting music? That's a good question. Do you guys hear the starting music? Because I sure don't. And I ought to. Still no music. Okay. That would be a problem because if you guys don't hear the music, then it would be awfully difficult for you to hear the thing that we're gonna do next, which is the idea. What are we all yapping about? Okay, there we go. Well, we ought to hear music. Let me just try. Why would this be not... Okay, why would this be not playing music? Uh-oh. Why would that not be working? Okay, so if I do this, and I hit this button here... Oh, I see. There we go. How's that? Do you hear that now? Okay, well, welcome to Strawberry's Gamer Society. I am Strawberry, and here we are, live on Twitch and YouTube, and hopefully everything is fixed now. Yay, it works on YouTube. Hello, Booney. Yes, oops. Yeah, we don't need that one. There we go.
Background music.
Yes, the iconic Strawberry background music. That song is called Eine kleine Knock music by Beethoven. All right, and today, here we go, happy playlist time. This you should hear. That's also my iconic background music. There we go.
Hello.
Oh, you can shape the world.
Rushy completely.
Ah, yay. Aha, hello. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, so today, what we're gonna do, first I'll give you an overview of what we're gonna do in Minecraft. So, see how we've got this nice long flat area here? Well, that long flat area needs to be even longer for the jousting arena. I want it to go about to here. There we go. So I'm gonna have to get out my pickaxe and start taking down some of this stone and finish off taking out all this dirt. And then we're going to build a jousting arena, basically a long fence that goes from one side to the other so that we can go joust each other. And when that is completed, then, or rather, I will be working on that. That probably won't be completed today, but it's going to be for the SMP Olympics, which will start when the real Olympics do. Yeah, yup. That's Minecraft for ya. That is Minecraft for you. Apparently on Hightail, you can't do that. Yeah. Oh. Oh, nice. Nice. That is a time saver. Yay. So while I am doing all that building today, then once a year, I have a special stream where I play 2 essays. So I used to try to read these out loud and try to do Minecraft and the essays at the same... Uh-oh, I'm out of water. That is the very last swig of water. So I used to try to read these essays out loud while I was also still doing it, or while I was also still playing Minecraft. And let's just say that did not work very well. So what I did a couple of years ago is I recorded myself reading the essays. And I can pause them. Like, if you guys want to stop and talk about the things in the essays, then I am totally fine to pause the reading of the essay and have a little chat about racism and race. And these 2 essays are based on the experiences of people in America with racism, but I imagine that racism happens all over the world. And especially like when I went to Europe, so I live in the Silicon Valley, where there are lots of people of lots of different races all the time. Like whites are what they call a minority majority. Oh, thank you, long arms. Whites are what they call a minority majority in my area, which means that while there's more whites than anybody else, there's less than 50% white people in the area. Oh my goodness!
Lamari
Thank you,
I28 just raided with
Lamari!
12 viewers.
Woohoo! Oh, yay! I'm glad that YouTube is recommending my stuff to
Jaguar
you.
just followed.
Oh, thank you for the follows! Hello, everybody! Hello, Lamari! Oh, hey, I'll bet Labstract Structure sent you guys over here. Thank you, though. Thank you so much for the raid. Yeah. Oh, ChatGPT. Oh, awesome.
Seems to be
Glad
really bad,
ChatGPT liked
especially
it.
when it's incredibly easy for people to get offended.
Yes, yeah, it is. And, you know, in some sense, it's like if you go through life being offended at everything,
Nafine
then
just followed.
you're just going to be an unhappy person. But at the same time, if you don't let people know what bothers you, then they won't know. And so this
That
is
control
where...
guy just followed.
If you are being told by other people that you are annoying all the time, chances are you need to look at your behavior and say, what am I doing that's annoying to people? And is there something that I can do that can fix this? Is there some way that I can change my behavior so that I am not quite so annoying to the people around me? Yay!
Yeah, and
yeah.
sometimes
Okay.
people don't like to acknowledge that they are the problem.
Yes, yeah. And so, yes, and it is fine if you guys want to speak in German. Ich spreche nur ein bisschen Deutsch. My moderators do have... So, yeah, my chat rules are just be kind always. And so, as long as you're being kind, then it is fine. But, yes, I do not speak that much German.
I only know one word of German.
But what's your one word of German?
Sometimes you don't know if you did wrong.
Nine.
Yeah. Well, my brother lived in Germany for 20 years. And his first year in Germany, so he was in the American military over there. And his first year in Germany, he learned to speak 3 words of German. Sprechen Sie English? His second year in Germany, he learned to speak 3 more words of German for those rare occasions when his first 3 words didn't do it for him. Ein Bier bitte? And then his third year in Germany, he didn't need to learn any more German because that was all he needed.
Sprechen Sie English?
Yeah, I do in fact speak English. Yes. Yeah, no, you said, let's see here. You said something like, can we speak German here or something? The Deutsch Übernehmen, jetzt hier. The Germans are here. The German people are here. I think that's what that means. Yeah. All right. I do not know the Netherlands.
Drink water.
Oh, thank you for the hydrate. All right. So, yes, today is a special day because what I'm going to be doing is building a jousting arena in Minecraft here, while also playing some really important essays on race and racial relations. And so I want it to be the safe kind of place where you can talk about, like, you can say things that might necessarily be against the progressive theme, and I'm not going to exclude you, okay? And while I live in California, and I live in a place that is, as we said, minority majority, so there's more whites than any other one race, but there's less than half the people. I think we're down to like 35% of the people in the area where I live are white. And yes, it's a very heavily Asian place and heavily Indian, and I think that's wonderful. It's one of those things that I love about California, is just how diverse it is, and I really, really like that. Yeah. What is the weather? Right, it's sunny 72, same as it always is. It might be only 68 today, but it is sunny as usual. Yeah, there we go. All right, so yes, I am gonna play 2 essays on race in America, and there's one is by a teacher, a white school teacher, who it's called Yelling Class. And when she was in college, she had to take a class on understanding race, and it's about her experience of that. And it was written at a time when fandom was exploding. Basically, the background of when this essay was written is it happened when somebody made a comment about, I think that science fiction authors can't write women characters unless they're a woman, and can't write minority characters unless they're a minority. So if you are writing science fiction, you should only write science fiction if you have that lived experience. And somebody else said, well, wait, I think that, anybody can write anything. Are we now making it so that minority characters can only write science fiction about minorities? Is that really what we want? And basically, fandom started yelling at each other a lot of, no, you cannot understand my lived experience. And, I really need to just sleep. Where's my bed? Bed. Let's sleep.
We actually have a term for that in fandom. It's called a flame war.
Yes. So they were having a flame war. And this person woke up like they had just been away for the weekend or something. I think it says right at the start of the essay. Their name is Dolphin Girl. And they woke up and they're like, oh, fandom is in Yelling Class. And so they wrote an essay on LiveJournal about Yelling Class. And you can get to it by doing !race in my journal at any time. Now, I do not recommend accepting LiveJournal's terms of service. Like, since this was written, then LiveJournal got bought out by Russia, and basically LiveJournal's terms of service are you agreed to abide by all Russian laws, which includes that you agree that you won't lie, which in Russia, then saying things like, saying lots of things which in the rest of the world we would consider the truth are lies because they go against Russian propaganda. So I do not recommend agreeing to the terms of service on this LiveJournal essay. But that is the source of the original essay, and it was written before this essay writing service was taken over by the Russians. Yeah, the word for blog in Russia is LiveJournal, basically, because it was so popular there. So this is, that's the first essay, Yelling Class. The second one is an essay by just a guy on Facebook. It's just a normal individual, but when there were a bunch of riots in America over black people being killed by police, and the people who did it, the police officers, not facing any consequences, then when all that was happening, then this guy named Brian Cooks wrote an essay, and it got really widely shared on Facebook. And it was just a really good essay about his experience being black in America. And so I will be sharing that essay as well all the time while making a jousting arena in Minecraft. There we go. And so if you guys want me to pause and stop and talk about it, and for you to say, yes, this matches with my experience, or, oh, this is not my experience at all, my experience is something totally different than that, then feel free to ask me to stop, and we can stop and chat. And this is a safe space where you can say anything, and I am not going to jump down your throat for saying the wrong thing about race relations. And one of my happiest moments, I guess you say, one of my proudest moments as a streamer was I did this set of essays a long time ago, and one of the people who was from the Philippines said, wow, like she kind of went back and forth with me on how what I was saying wasn't quite right for a while. And then like 6 months later, she came back and said, hey, Strawberry, I thought about what you said, and I hadn't realized how some of the things that I say and do in my daily life can be hurtful to people. And so, I don't know, for me, that was one of my proudest moments as a streamer. So, without further ado, this is an essay by, let me bring up the thing. Hopefully that's not going to cover up the screen too much. This is an essay by Dolphin Girl about Yelling Class. This is from Dolphin. And I'm going to turn that down and turn that up.
153506.html.
Okay, yes,
a moment
that's the
of contemplation.
source.
I've not been reading LiveJournal much lately, being altogether too wrapped up in the exercise and futility that is planning lessons the kids still insist on ignoring. But I logged in yesterday, only to have a moment of staring at the screen going, whoa, did fandom just explode? Several, as in still doing it, hours of reading later, I was able to conclude, no, fandom didn't explode. Fandom is in Yelling Class. Okay, it's not a perfect comparison. I think what's going on is way more out of control than Yelling Class ever got. And there are key and crucial differences between having this kind of discussion face-to-face in real time and having it on the internet. But, man, are there ever similarities. Yelling Class was centered around one of the courses we took in Teachers College, and I honestly can't remember what it's actually called. I did check my transcript, but due to the strange nature of site divisions at New York, the name of several courses are different from the ones on my syllabi. I think it was Foundations. Truth be told, most of the classes ended up blurring into one another, especially by the end, so it certainly wasn't limited to just one class. I'm wondering if it was one of the courses for which York said to the site directors, teach something about this. But what was actually taught varied depending on what site you were at. Our site, Regent Park, was located in one of the highest poverty, highest immigration rate areas of Toronto, and as such, the focus of our program was in teaching for equity and diversity. The necessity of this can be illustrated by looking at Rose Avenue, where I first
Yes, you
practiced
can do
taught,
TTS, absolutely.
and where I ended up returning because I love the experience so much, and heartily wish I was there now. At Rose Avenue, I think there were maybe 2 white kids, sisters at that, but the teachers at the school were almost entirely white. The potential problem therein is that kids learn better when they see a point to learning. When they can connect, relate to, and understand the material being taught, the examples used, and yes, the people actually doing the teaching. Where the danger lies is when a teacher with the best of intentions goes in unprepared and unwittingly starts creating gaps between the student and the learning without even realizing it. To use one example brought up in class, when your class is full of Arties and AWABs and Tenzins, and your textbooks are full of Jimmies, Sallys, and Susies engaging in very white upper-class middle...
Oh, thank you for the squats.
Jimmies, Sallys, and Susies engaging in very white upper-middle-class activities.
10 squats, everybody.
You start sending subtle, unconscious messages. One that came up, for example, that white people are better at math because they're the ones in the book. But that's barely scratching the surface of teaching that kind of student population. Different cultures have fundamentally different ways of learning. And if you're not aware of it, you can shut down a kid who's just trying to learn in the manner in which they've been trained from birth. We're shaped by our experiences, our families, our cultures, and our experiences.
So the reason why there's stuff in front of your name, so you can get various badges on Twitch for doing things, like watching somebody play Silk Song in the first time after Silk Song's released. You can get the Silk Song badge, for example. And it looks like, Booney, you've got the not looking badge.
If you don't work to understand those of your students, you can end up causing serious harm. So, part of what Yelling Class aimed to do was to make us aware of things like this, so that we would be better teachers for the kinds of student populations we would eventually be teaching. But the first day of Yelling Class, our professor, a black woman, told us, "This class will make you uncomfortable. This class will make you angry." And she was right. It became known to many of us as Yelling Class because that's what it usually ended up being. The classes revolved heavily around discussions of racism, prejudice, and inequality. And though we touched on things like anti-Semitism, homosexuality, and feminism, we always ended up back at race, usually emotionally and at great volume. I think a large part of the problem lay in the fact that we were dealing with very real, very emotional pain for everyone involved. Everyone's been treated unjustly at some point in their lives. Often, the arguments would get triggered by some sort of comparison. For example, comparing the experience of being a child from an insert white European immigrant background family to being insert non-white background. Some people would get upset that their very real experiences with injustice seemed to be shoved into the background, or feel that the class was heavily biased toward the black students. The thing is, if you're a human being, pain sucks. It's very deep, very personal, and can have long-lasting effects. So often, problems would arise because it would seem like we were playing, "My pain is greater than yours." And the people of color in the class were not trying to negate the pain of, for example, being treated differently because you're Jewish. What they would try to do is explain how it's different being treated differently because of the color of your skin, because unlike being Jewish, you can't hide the color of your skin, and try to explain the pervasive and systemic racism that's still present in society. But quite often, either through the heat of emotion or through the filters of perception, that would be taken as, "Yes, but my pain is greater and more important than yours."
Once a year, architect
Which, of
AI.
course, was met defensively.
Once a year.
And then the divisions would form and sides would be taken. and volume would escalate. And yet, therein lay the value of having face-to-face yelling class, as opposed to doing it anonymously on the internet.
See you later,
There's
Booney.
something about seeing your friend, one of the most upbeat, kind, articulate, and happy people you've ever met, reduced to powerless silence by his tears during the recounting of a racist act against him, that really enforces how immediate and real this kind of pain is, and how personal experiences with injustice matter to everyone. A lot of people cried during yelling class. I did, several times. Some of us ended up getting very tired of yelling class, because for every informative class we had, and we did learn some truly startling things during that class, especially when looking at statistics and connections between race, income, and education. It would seem that we ended up having the same shouted conversation over and over and over again. Once, we were even divided into white and non-white groups and separated to talk over issues of racism, then brought back together, which resulted in yet another full-volume argument. Don't even get me started on what happened when we brought up the topic of black-focused schooling. The class ended up falling into a few categories. Students of color who would yell, white students of various backgrounds who would yell, students who would try to avoid the class whenever possible, students who would mentally, verbally, and emotionally disengage and retreat in silence into their own heads for those 3 hours, and students who would wring their hands and wonder, why can't we all just get along? Often,
would probably
in small
be me.
groups, we ended up discussing what the point was. Why keep having the class at all if all we did was have the same argument over and over, yet never seemed to come to any resolution? What was the point of arguing if we were never told what we could do about
Yes,
any of
this
it?
is a good one to fall
We felt
asleep
like
to.
hamsters in a wheel,
Feel
running
free
and
to
running and running,
listen
but
to
never
the VOD
getting
later
anywhere.
if you
And the
want to
class
hear what
began to
actually
feel like an
how it
exercise
ends.
in futility. It wasn't until well after graduation that I began to realize how much yelling class had done to me. Yelling class began with one of those circle games, where you write in circles on a page aspects of you that define who you are. Mine were things like female, teacher, writer, geek, fat. When everyone began to read theirs out, interesting trends emerged. Almost none of the white students included white in their circles. Almost all of the black students included black. What I can see, looking back on that circle game after graduation, was that most people included in their circles things about themselves for which they had, at some point, been the victims of abuse. Fat and geek were mine. Others from the white students included Jewish, gay, immigrant background. It should have been telling that black appeared on so many of the black students' pages. But it took me a while. At the beginning of yelling class, I also prided myself on all the work I'd done to make myself colorblind. It was in yelling class that I learned how incredibly racist that was. One of the best So I want to sort of talk about this. I'm pausing the essay here, by the way, if you can't tell. So one of the things where the term woke came from is when people, like, being awakened to that idea that, oh, colorblind isn't enough. You need to actually understand where somebody came from. You can't ignore the fact that they came from growing up as a person of color. That's where the term woke originally came from, and now it's been twisted into this weird political pick sides kind of thing, which is unfortunate. But anyway, that piece is that was new to me when I first heard this essay. Vocalizations of how awful the term colorblind really is came back to the circle.
Another thing is that it's like a lot of people will just use the term woke, whether politically or not, to just kind of put in anything and everything that they don't like under the sun.
Yes. Yeah. It's now become a term of attack as opposed to a term of, oh, by the way, I understand now, and I'm sorry for thinking that colorblind was enough, because
Yeah,
it matters.
if I had a nickel for every time I heard a woke argument, I'd have a lot of nickels.
Yeah.
I'd be
All
like,
right.
my nickel jar is overflowing.
Yeah. Okay, let me get back to it.
Circle game.
Oh, oops, sorry. Did you want to say more?
Yeah, just one last thing, because I primarily heard it, like, a lot of times when referring to, like, the big corporations like Disney. Because it's like, Disney's so woke now, and yada yada yada, and it's like, guys, they're just trying to do something different.
Yeah. They're trying to actually understand. And yeah. Oh. Be kind always. That is my motto. All right, let's go back to the essay.
And how many of the students listed Black, or Korean, or whatever they happen to be, as one of the fundamental defining characteristics of who they are as a person. When you try to be colorblind, you're actually discounting an entire aspect of who a person is. For white people, who almost unanimously do not list their color as a defining characteristic of who they are, this doesn't appear to be a big deal. But for someone who does, you're essentially saying, I dismiss the entire part of you that is integral to your personality and part of your definition of who you are as unimportant and of no concern to me. It's a hard thing to realize that you're carrying something like racism around with you, however unconsciously. I mean, we're human. Most of us want very much to be good people and try our hardest to do so. So it's hard when you come to realize that something that you had perceived as being anti-racist was actually very, very much the opposite. Reactions to learning this can differ greatly, from horrified acceptance to
subscribe
vehement
to the
denial.
main StrawberryGS
Oh!
YouTube channel.
No,
Thank you for the sub!
The point of yelling class was the opposite of colorblindness. The point of yelling class was to open the eyes of all the teachers, particularly those who had been living in privilege, and help them to see the inequalities that appear all around them in society, in schools, and in themselves. Our professor once said something that helped a lot of us with the issue. She said that, as a Black woman, she felt safer driving around the American Deep South than she did in Toronto. Because in the Deep South, you can see the racism, and you know which bits to avoid. In Toronto, it's all been driven underground. I've slowly, in bits and pieces, started to understand exactly how important yelling class has been to me, in the shifts to my perception it's caused, and how I've started noticing injustices and inequalities that I never saw before,
I'm sorry, Drake.
and how I'm better able to examine my own actions, to catch myself before saying or doing things I might never have thought twice about, in my willingness to learn and adapt and change.
Yeah, Draco, I think on YouTube, then it like auto dubs it. So if you want to watch the VOD later, it should be auto dubbed, and you can select German as one of your languages, or as one of the languages to listen to it. If you're interested in the comment, but you don't want to listen to it in English, and you don't mind Google's auto dub, come back later. Yeah, my YouTube channel is StrawberryGS. Here, let me put that up there. There you go.
But perhaps the biggest moment of revelation came not too long ago, during a visit with family. I love my family dearly, but sometimes they're not the most tolerant people. They don't think they're bigoted.
All right.
Most of them pride themselves on being anti-racist, anti-prejudice, what have you. Yet it comes out slowly and pervasively. They will often say things that make me inwardly and outwardly cringe. I have a problem with native people because they're just lazy and sit around on the res collecting money. Springs immediately to mind. But I've never been able to address it because the entire tangled mess of trying to deconstruct their prejudice, societal stereotypes, and my own ignorance would tangle in my throat and render me mute. Yet recently, I was told by a family member that she found the black people in Africa are so much nicer than the ones in North America. And for the first time, I was able to discuss it with her. I'm not sure how much of an impression I made or how much I was able to change her perceptions, but for the first time I actually had a lexicon, a vocabulary, a structure, and tools with which to discuss things like the impact of centuries of cultural history, cultural identity, cultural diversity, white privilege, and unwitting prejudice. Yelling class, despite how often it left me feel like there was nothing I could say, actually gave me the ability to speak. That was my aha moment. The point at which I realized that yes, I had in fact learned something more important than raw knowledge from yelling class. The problem that I see is, as humans, we like putting things in boxes. Male or female, black or white, open or closed. Yet nature, in its very essence, is about continuous variation and change, and abhors either or for the most part. Gender is not either or, exists on a spectrum, with most of the population gathered around one end or the other. There's no end to the racism discussion. We don't get to complete a series of challenges and go, hooray, racism is over now, let's have cake. It's constant, it's ongoing. And that, I finally see, was the point of all the seemingly endless circle of arguments that went on in yelling class. It seemed like it didn't have a purpose or any sort of end. It seemed like we never got anywhere. But each time arguments happened, each time grievances were aired, two things were accomplished. One, our eyes were opened a little more as we learned how to really listen. Two, we were a little better equipped with the words and tools needed to actually do something about it. No, yelling class was not perfect. There were some people who were irreparably hurt by some of the things said. There are some people, inherently good people, I will never be able to see the same way because of some of the things they said or the views they expressed. There are some people who will never change. But there were some people, the people who were there to learn, who took it seriously, and who genuinely tried to listen and communicate, who were actually altered for the better because of the experience. It's not perfect. I know that there's still a lot I have to learn. I realize that there's still a great deal I don't understand, and that I will probably find a number of prejudices still in me as I go through life. I will very probably make mistakes. I will very probably say stupid things. And I will very probably say or do something that hurts or offends someone without ever intending to. But I think that I came out of yelling class a slightly better person than I was when I went in. That I was open to the idea that I am not perfect. That I can learn and change and acknowledge my shortcomings and failings.
Push-ups.
And that I was equipped, at least in part, to help my students effect that change and give them the tools to address it. And that, I think, was the point. Once again, this is from Dolphin Girl.
Make good choices.
From
Drink water.
March of 2000, March 7th, 2009.
All right.
This is a post by Brian Crooks,
Whoops.
July.
Okay, that is yelling class. I don't know. For me, that post changed the way I think about what it is to be woke.
Hello.
Hello.
Finally here after which it took me a while to get home.
Ah, got it. Yeah, so what did you hear too much of did you hear the yelling class essay?
A little bit, but not a whole lot.
Oh, okay. Got it. Well, you can go back and listen to the VOD later. This is one of my... I do this every year, and I don't know. I think it's one of the more important ones. Yep. Okay, good night. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Draco, for stopping by. I appreciate it. Yeah, so the second essay is by... So that one was by a white woman who is studying to become a teacher. This next essay is by a black man who's just a regular black man talking about his experience growing up middle class and black. So he grew up in an area where he was like the only black kid in his class. And this is his experience. Let me bring up...
Okay.
Bring up that. And this is
Also,
Brian
hi, Fiona.
Crooks. Brian Crooks writing on Facebook.
July 9th, 2016 on Facebook. So,
Okay.
over the last
I normally
few
never use
days, I've
Facebook,
done
so
a
I
lot
didn't
of
know that.
linking and reposting, but I haven't really done a lot of speaking about my
Yeah, most of
personal
the time,
experience to
I
explain
barely
where
read
I'm coming
anything
from.
on Facebook.
Please.
Let me pause it. Sorry, what did you say, Fiona?
I barely read anything on Facebook because
Yeah.
of recent events kind of making Facebook into a less than favorable microphone.
Hello, I can't send messages, but I'm from the raid in German too, and I think this is the only way to communicate with you. I really had quiet 30 minutes ago I chatted, but here I can't.
Huh, that's interesting. Oh, you might need to follow first. You might have to follow to chat. I may have turned on following required to be
probably is the
chatting.
case.
Entirely possible. Yeah, Facebook used to be the kind of place where, I could follow distant friends and
I
family
follow.
members and see what was going on in their lives. But less and less people are talking about themselves and, how their kids are doing. And more they're just talking about politics and they're just forwarding things that are political and that are... Keep in mind, whenever there is an algorithm, the algorithm is meant to keep you on the platform. It is meant to make you mad. If you didn't choose what you were going to see, and an algorithm chooses it for you, the algorithm is choosing to make you mad and keep you on your platform and try to have you say, "Oh, that's not right," and reply to it in a
I am
mad
following.
way. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very exhausting world we live in right now.
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
Indeed.
yeah. And it's like, it's meant to try to make you angry and try to polarize you and try to put you in a camp that I think most people, in the absence of people trying to polarize them, most people are much more closer to the center. But when you have people yelling all the time about how, nothing can be right about the other side, and this is true for both sides of American politics, and in some countries, then they have where they have a parliamentary system, and there's more than one little bubble that you can put yourself in. Then they try to have everybody else is wrong and only we are right, and that's not actually how it is. Like there's more than one right way to be, in my opinion, and there's a lot more subtlety to it than what's presented as the other side is completely 100% wrong, and how could they possibly think that way? And when you actually talk to real people, then they tend to be a lot more subtle in their actual individual thoughts, unless they're one of those people who's just, I'm going to state the party line, whatever it is. And there are some people like that too.
A lot of
and
people like that.
at that point, it's just easier to tune them out than just It's easier
Yeah.
tuning them out than engaging in whatever kind of craziness they end up being brainwashed with at that particular day.
Yes. Yeah. There's some of my friends, like there's some of the political commentary ones on both sides that I've just said, okay, hide all from this user. So when people just forward stuff from, there's certain political commentators who literally, it is their job to make you angry. Like, it is their job to make you polarized. And I don't know if they believe the things they're saying or not, but they're good at rhetoric. They're good at writing. And that's, they say stuff specifically to get you angry. And I don't know. I don't want to give them that time of day. I would rather talk to my real friends. I have some friends with whom we can actually talk about real issues. Oh, I found a horse with a saddle.
Oh my god.
Yeah. How did you get out here? Let's see.
I don't know. I just ran.
Yeah.
The horse.
Let's get you in with all the other horsies.
Loving the fact that they made zombie horses spawnable in survival now.
Yay.
Weren't they always spawnable?
No, they're new with this update 1.21.11.
Yeah, basically, at first, the only way to get, like, rideable zombie horses was, like, spawning them via commands. But now they just spawn in survival with the Mounts of Mayhem update.
Yeah.
Well, there's another reason for me to forever be scared of hardcore
I am
mode.
following. I have email and I have a phone number, but why I can't chat?
Huh.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and that's weird because I hear your text to speech, but I don't see.
I hear it too.
Yeah, I don't see your name. Like, usually text to speech shows up. Let me see here. Yeah, I have no idea. Content, community settings.
That is odd.
Yeah,
that.
I don't know. I don't want to have you not allowed to talk, but I also don't know how to fix that. Let me see if I can.
It's something in the chat settings, probably.
Yeah. Let's see here.
That's really weird.
Settings. Yeah, chat permissions. Channel.
All right. What is this? God, what is this lag?
Channel. Yeah. Actually, well, no, that probably wouldn't do it. Clip settings. I don't know. Maybe one of my moderators can figure it out and turn off follower only and turn off stuff. I don't want to stop the stream too long to be looking at it. But let's see here. But at least you can use text to speech successfully.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't even know who you are because
Wait,
it doesn't
I tested
show
on other
up.
channels and I can't chat.
Oh, you can't chat on other channels either. Oh, wait, you can or can't?
Which thing?
Cannot or can?
Maybe.
I don't know.
I mean, if they can't chat on other channels, it could be a Twitch thing.
Yeah, if you can't chat on other channels, then Twitch is like shadow banned you or something.
Yeah.
But if you can text to speech though, that's weird.
Wait a minute, but if they can do that, then there's no way they could have been ghost banned.
Well, no, Twitch might still let people use viewer rewards even if they're shadow banned.
Well, I know for a fact that
because
that can't be the case though, because every time I've been banned on a channel, I'm not able to use the stream points for the redeems.
Well, there's a difference between shadow banned and actually banned. If you're shadow banned, they don't tell you that you're banned. Yeah, and there are many ways that
English, but I like this stream. My name is Jagwag.
Jagwag. Okay, got it. Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it. Yes, and hello, Minor God Official. I'm sorry that your SMP that you joined didn't have any people on it. Yeah, try to stay on it. Yeah, sometimes I see people log on to my SMP, see that there's nobody on, and log off, and then half an hour later, somebody else does the same thing, and that's why it's okay on my SMP to whatever that's called, offline gather resources.
Yeah, just like grinding.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, but shall we get back to the essay? Let us hear from Brian Cooks about the experience of growing up black in white America. Let me turn him on.
Bear
I
with me for a
would,
few
but I gotta
minutes.
get myself going.
Hopefully
I
it'll
gotta
help you understand
things
why I
to
feel
work
the way
on.
I do about what's been going on.
Okay.
Saying arts and
later,
The
pets.
first time I
Hey,
was
up.
acutely aware of my blackness, I was probably 6 or 7 years old. Like, before
I
then,
ground up
obviously I
animals.
knew I was black, but I hadn't really had it put in my face like this until I was about 6 or 7. I used to go to daycare back then, and we went on a field trip to a water park one time. One of the other boys from the daycare came up to me and told me he was surprised I was going on the trip because his dad told him all colored people were afraid of the water since we sink to the bottom. He didn't know he was being offensive. He was just curious why someone who would sink to the bottom would want to go to a water park. I can remember being in elementary school, thinking maybe I was unable to see what was really going on. I, like many other black people in my generation, was the only black kid in my class. I think the first time I had class with another black kid was when I was in 5th grade. I need to go back and look at my class pictures to be sure, but for sure there were never like 6 or 7 of us in one class. So anyway, in elementary school, right around the same time I was told that colored people couldn't swim, I remember wondering whether I saw the same stuff the white kids saw. I seriously remembering whether I just thought I was sitting quietly, while in reality I was running around and going crazy and being disruptive. I don't really know why I wondered that. I'd picked up on some kinds of cues in pop culture and stuff, I guess. But I really did think that there was a chance that the white kids were just being polite not to react to me if I was jumping on their desks and throwing stuff without being able to see it myself. In elementary school, I was in the gifted program. I'd never been any good at math or science, but I was a really creative kid who loved history and telling stories. In the 3rd grade, the gifted program focused on the Middle Ages. I was in heaven. I loved learning about knights and castles and all that stuff. We had a group project to do sometime that year, where we were supposed to give a short speech about something we'd learned during the year. All the groups broke off to divvy up the work when my teacher came over to my group. Wouldn't it be easier and more fun for me if my group did some of our presentation as a rap? I'm 8 years old. I have no history writing any kind of music, much less a full 3 or 4 minutes of rap verses for me and my teammates. But I tried. The other kids just expected it to be natural for me. They looked at me like, "What do you mean you don't know how to rap?" We ended up just doing it as a regular presentation like everybody else. And afterwards, my teacher came up to me and said, "I thought you guys were going to rap. I was looking forward to MC Brian." Again, she didn't know that she was making a racially insensitive statement. Why would she? It's not like she'd had deep conversation with how black people feel about their blackness, or the way black people internalize the way white people feel about our blackness. From elementary school through middle school, I can't remember how many times the white kids asked if they could touch my hair. I'm not kidding when I say it happened pretty much once a week at least.
Oh my
At first, it didn't bother me. But eventually, I felt like an exhibit in a petting zoo. And I didn't have the vocabulary to explain to them. And it was really weird that they kept asking to touch my hair all the time. See, I was a pretty shy kid. I was the only black one. I was overweight. I'd moved 3 times before I turned 10. So, rather than telling the white kids that no, they couldn't rummage through my hair. I just said yes and sat there quietly while they marveled at how my hair felt. My least favorite time of the year, every year, was February, Black History Month. Being the only black kid in class, I was the designated reader for the entire month. When it came time to read from our history books about slavery and the Triangle Trade Route, I was always the one chosen to read. When it came time to read about Jim Crow, it was my turn. George Washington Carver and the Peanut? That sounds like a job for Brian. Booker T. Washington? Harriet Tubman? Surely Brian is the perfect choice for those passages. All the while, I felt the eyes of my fellow students on me. Again, I was already a shy kid, so having an entire classroom of white kids stare at me while I explained what lynching and black codes were was pretty mortifying.
And I can see where, from the teacher's perspective, that made sense, but clearly not
when you're
from
one
the
of a
kid's
handful of
perspective.
black kids in a sea of judgmental, painfully self-conscious white kids, that awkwardness
and it
is
seems
magnified. I
like,
can
at
remember
that
being in
point
7th
time,
grade
it
when a couple of
was-
girls who were always waiting.
They were still kind of they were kind of still like figuring stuff out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. His teacher hadn't been to yelling class.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
Way too cool to talk to me, ran up in the hallway and told me they had a girl for me to meet. Being that I was 12 or 13, I asked what she looked like. "You're really gonna like her," they said. I met her near the end of the day. She was morbidly obese and about 3 shades darker than me. The popular girls, of course, decided that since we were both black and overweight, we were a match made in heaven. At this point, I'm pretty sure they were aware they were being jerks. The ignorance of my childhood
Hey,
had mostly fallen away by
Jacqueline!
that point. But they
Yay!
were popular, I was a nerd, and the girl they thought was perfect for me was new in school. I'm sure they told her they had a great guy for her, too. We just stood there, both aware that we were the butt of their joke, and aware that we didn't have the social cachet to actually do anything about it. In 8th grade,
middle school
I went
is
to a
so
friend's
awkward.
house to jump on his trampoline. I didn't know the kid all that well, but we had some mutual friends, and at that age, if a kid has a trampoline, you're going to jump on that trampoline. He had a couple of neighbors who were probably 6 or 7-year-old girls. We were jumping on the trampoline, and the girls came out of their house and come over to his yard.
10 squats.
Within about 5 minutes, they were laughing while saying, "Get off our property, black boy." They were little, and they were laughing, so I don't think they knew how ugly they were being. After all, they probably never had a black kid in their 1 or 2 elementary school classes.
Okay, so this is where I have to share I don't know if you call it a pet peeve, but just more of an awareness. Like, I've seen more and more people use the phrase boy when they're talking about, like, hey, zombie, get off my lawn, boy. And I think that people don't realize that calling someone boy like that is a throwback to the American South, where that's how white people talked negatively to black people, and it has some really negative connotations to it. So I would prefer if, at least in my chat, people didn't call things boy in that way. And I know that it's kind of being reclaimed and used in different ways in popular culture now, but I would still prefer not.
Yeah, or just people of color, like, say, like, I think it was also used, especially, like, down in Louisiana for, like, Creole people.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, definitely those of, like, mixed race.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reclaimed is also a kind of complicated thing. Yeah. Oh,
goodness.
hey, I'm glad you like the subtitles. Oh, and it's probably not doing the subtitle. Oh, is it? Is it doing the subtitles on my on the reading? I should check next time I turn it on.
Oh goodness.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
have-
and Lord Duck, I hadn't thought of it as being a voice stim, but yeah, it can be seen as very derogatory and insensitive. Yeah. Oh, we had a slime in the nether? That's unusual. Okay.
Yeah, not like a magma cube, just like an ordinary slime.
Yeah.
Must
yeah,
have gone through the portal.
Yeah, I think that the subtitles only does my voice, but actually, for today, I can probably change it. Well, first, let me turn this on and see if subtitles work, and then I might be able to change it so that it'll also subtitle the essay. Right now, I don't have it subtitling the essay, but I can try. Okay, let's see. Back to the essay. But they'd clearly heard the phrase somewhere else before. I wasn't even on their property. I was next door. But it's fair to assume that at some point, someone in their house had said, "Get off my property, black boy." In high school, I was around more black kids. Still not a lot, but more than 0, so that was nice. When I was 15, I got my first real girlfriend. I'd asked some girls out before, and some of them said yes, but when you're 13 or 14 years old, what does going out even mean? So, my first real girlfriend was white. After all, I was living in an overwhelmingly white community, and it's not like I was a heartthrob, so I was in no position to tell a girl who liked me that I was only interested in dating a black girl. I might have never had a girlfriend if that was the line I drew. We were a good couple. We got along well and had similar interests and stuff. Basically what you'd like to have as a high school sophomore. Her parents were divorced, but her mom and stepdad liked me. Then, her biological father found out I was black. A week later, she called me crying and said we had to break up. Her dad didn't support her dating a black person. Bye. So, my first heartbreak came as a direct result of racism. When I was going through driver's ed, my behind-the-wheel instructor was a football coach at one of the other Naperville high schools. He asked what kind of car I wanted one time, and I told him I was going to get my dad's Dodge Intrepid. But I really liked my brother's Mazda. He looked at me like I was nuts and said he'd figured out I'd want an Impala so I could put some hydraulics on it and hit them switches. When we finally got back to my house at the end of my last behind-the-wheel session, he shook my hand and said it was a pleasure teaching me how to drive. Then he said, "You're a black kid, but you're pretty cool, you know? Like, you're not one of those black people, you know?" In high school, I played football. There was a kid on the football team who I'd been friends with since middle school. Not like best friends or anything, but we ran in similar circles and we were certainly friendly with each other. When we were 16 or 17, he started referring to me as the whitest black guy. It really made me angry. He knew it made me angry because I used proper grammar, wore clothes that fit, and listened to metal in addition to hip-hop. It made me white. Turns out to be authentically black means being a caricature of what a black person should be, according to this suburban white kid. There's another case of me lacking the vocabulary at the time to express how that made me feel, but it's pretty messed up. This kid, we're currently Facebook friends, so I hope he reads this and knows what I'm talking about, identified as Italian American. I didn't call him the most Anglo-Italian guy because he didn't bring homemade ravioli to school for lunch every day and play an accordion while growing a mustache. I got pulled over a lot in high school. Like, a lot. By this point, I was no longer driving the Dodge. I had a Mazda of my own. It was flashy and... Oh, hello. Yeah, so Wildly Coyote, I I am not black. I am reading an essay from a guy who is black. So that is where this is coming from. But this is for Martin Luther King Day was on Monday. And so I do this stream once a year. And usually on Thursdays, I bring in other voices. So today is, yes. But and saying the thing that you said that sounds like sounds like I don't have a black female voice, like that's the kind of thing that somebody who's raised in middle class white America who doesn't have what's known as a traditional black accent, they might take offense at that, and it's not just hearing it once. It's the fact that you hear it again and again and again and again that makes it feel offensive. Yeah, and so I am not offended, and so, yes, I could say it explains why I don't sound like it, right? And so today is safe space. It's perfectly fine to have said that, and I completely understand why you might say that because, hey, it's surprising. I'm a faceless YouTuber. I have a red skin because I try to have a strawberry skin because I'm a strawberry. But yeah, it's not clear. And but at the same time, for the people who hear that again and again and again, like hearing it the first time, then it's like, oh, okay. But hearing it all the time just gets to be annoying. And it's kind of like, it's best. I have a rule on my server that is the 10-hour rule. So if we do ! 10 hours, then it'll show the 10-hour rule. And that is basically, it's a rule that I kind of developed over time. Oh, why did that not show up? Oh, maybe it's 10HR. There we go. Yeah, and it's something that I developed this when my kid was 3 years old and she needed glasses. And we would go to the grocery store. And when I took her to the grocery store as a 3-year-old, then all the people in the grocery store, especially old ladies, would go, "Oh, your glasses are so cute." And she, as a 3-year-old, kind of wanted to be ignored and wanted to be not approached by strangers. And the strangers thought that they were, trying to make her feel better about wearing glasses. And the thing is, when you wear glasses, they just become part of your face. Like, you forget that you're even wearing them. And it may look really weird to everybody else around, since most of the time 3-year-olds don't need to wear glasses. And so it just it's almost as though it's it's something that you're trying to like dress up your kid in glasses so that they look extra cute or something, which is not the case at all. But for her, they were just a part of her face, and she would forget that she's wearing them until these old ladies would come up to her and say, "Oh, your glasses are so cute. They're adorable." And it got to the point where she didn't want to go to the grocery store anymore because people kept pointing it out. And so that's where I came up with the 10-hour rule, which is don't talk to somebody about something that's a part of their physical appearance, positively or negatively, unless you've had 10 hours of conversations with them about something else first. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw that one, Lord Duck. Oh, yeah. Lunge. You got lunge 3. Congratulations, Fiona. Yeah. So the 10-hour rule is basically like, don't talk to anybody about something that has to do with their physical appearance unless you've had 10 hours of conversations with them about something else first. And usually by that time, then you know them well enough. So this is like, if it's a coworker, go out to lunch with them for an hour for 2 weeks before you ask them about, their neck tattoo or their, or say a comment like, you don't sound like you're black because, that kind of thing. Once you've known them for 10 hours and you've had 10 hours of conversation about other things, then you'll probably get a feel for whether or not they'd be offended by the comment that you're making about their appearance. But, my daughter really, really did not like the comments about her glasses. And, in the end, what I ended up doing, and if people always comment to you about something that's really annoying, because the thing is, if it's something that's blatantly obvious about how you look, like maybe you're missing a hand or you've got a face tattoo or, something that's really obvious about how you look, then people talk about it all the time. And it just becomes annoying and exhausting to hear about it all the time, even though one comment probably isn't a problem. Yeah.
Prosthetic limb.
The yes, exactly. And people might say things like, "Oh, wow, your hand, it looks really real." And if you have a prosthetic limb, then you probably get that a lot and you're probably sick and tired of it. You don't want to hear that anymore. Let's see here. What are my coordinates? Where are my coordinates? What the heck? Why don't I see what my coordinates are? Did coordinates change again in... They did! Okay, in Minecraft 1.21.11, F3, my coordinates are now on the top right. Okay. Well, we are at 4478, 2871. 2871. Okay. And we want to go to... Where do we want to go to? We want to go to 4500, 1500. So we want to go in the negative Z direction. Facing negative Z. Okay, yes, because I need to go home and mend my shovel. Actually, you know what? I think I have another shovel, maybe? I might have another shovel. Let me look and see if I've got another shovel in my recovery kit, and then I won't have to go home. Yeah, I do! Spare spoon. Okay. Because of that, I will not head home.
The chords are on the right, but I think that the whole F3 is now custom, so you can change what you see on the F3 screen in the settings somewhere.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, now I know. Okay. Yeah, so, that is, that's a thing. Try not, when I was in college, I had a friend with, I can best describe it as a droopy face. Basically, when he was a baby, he got an ear infection that damaged his, damaged the nerves that control the left side of his face. And so the whole left side of his face looked like he was having a stroke. It was just kind of droopy. And when he'd smile, it would only smile on one side of his face. And I didn't ask him about it. And it was one of those things where I was really, really curious as to why one side of his face was droopy. But I didn't say anything because I knew that that's the kind of thing that you probably shouldn't say. You don't talk to people about stuff like that. And what I found was, after a while, when I got to know him, because this was when I first knew him, then that was kind of like the only thing I could think about while I was looking at his face was, why is your face droopy? Why is your face droopy? But I didn't say anything. And then eventually, my brain just got used to it. And later, it's like I completely even forgot which of my friends it was that had a droopy face. Like somebody asked once and I had to think, wait, who has a droopy face? I need to go through all of my friends one at a time in my head and picture their faces and figure out which one it is that is the one that has the droopy face. And so after a while, you kind of get used to it, of people that you're near. But if you are the one that has something unusual, then people talk about it all the time. My former boss was 7 feet tall. He was so incredibly tall that your body, like when you're talking to him, your brain just kind of lights up and goes tall, 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 tall when you're talking to him. And you don't even, like, you can't even think about anything else other than just how tall he is. And one time I was on a business trip with him and the two of us were walking through the airport together. And I swear he got no less than 5 comments about how tall he was walking from security to the gate. Like, it was that much. And, you know, he is a very good-natured guy, and he'd kind of go, yep, I'm tall, and no, I don't play basketball, and yep, I'm tall, like each of the 5 times. And he was just sort of, you know, he had learned to deal with it by just not letting it bother him that people commented on how tall he was all the time. And if you have one of these characteristics about which you can do nothing, I would recommend that that's how you react, because you will just be a happier individual. And if you get upset at people for not doing it right all the time, then you're just going to go through life being upset. But if you are one of those other people who can choose not to comment on somebody's obvious physical characteristics, please don't comment, because they get it all the time, and it can be really annoying to have to respond to all those comments. And this includes even if you're saying something nice. Like, if the checkout clerk at the grocery store has, you know, a face tattoo of a rose on her face, don't say, oh, nice face tattoo. Because you don't know if her abusive ex-boyfriend forced her to get that as a, you know, a marker of I'm yours. And you don't know if she hates the fact that she has a face tattoo. And all she can say is, thank you very much. You're not going to have a productive conversation with the checkout clerk in the grocery line about how they really feel about this face tattoo. So don't say anything. Now, something that somebody can change, like if they wear special clothing or special earrings that are kind of meant to get attention, that's a little bit different. But if all of your interactions with the office secretary, not like offices have secretaries these days, but if all of your interactions consists of you complimenting their clothing, that also gets kind of weird. Don't recommend it. Try to have conversations with them about something else first, so that your conversations aren't only about what they're wearing. And if after 10 hours your brain is still going tall, 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 and you can't really have any other productive conversation until you get that out of your head, then maybe it's okay if it's, you know, preventing you from having other productive conversation with the person. But by then, you'll know them well enough. By then, most of the time, your brain will have calmed down by then. And most of the time, you'll know them well enough to be able to have that conversation in a way that isn't weird. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I love to meme your own country. Oh, yep. All right. So anyway, back to yes, yeah. Stereotype jokes. And the thing is that like in the US we have the stereotypical dumb blonde joke. And, you know, occasionally it's okay, but when it's all the time that a person is hearing a dumb blonde joke, you know, people don't like to be made fun of. And so as long as you vary it a little bit, it's nice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, if you've had lots of conversations with the other person, then you probably know whether or not they find it offensive. And it's kind of like this guy is saying in his essay. He had a friend who used to make jokes all the time about, "You're the whitest black guy I know." And he told his friend, "Hey, please stop saying that. That annoys me." And at that point, you really need to stop. If your Russian friend or friend with Russian descent or whatever says, "Hey, I'm really tired of the Russian stereotypical jokes," then you really need to lay off the Russian stereotype jokes. And stop saying them if the person indicates that they're offensive to you. And I know that's really hard. And sometimes people say, "Yeah, but this is just who I am. I make that kind of offensive joke." And my advice would be, well, change who you are. Because it is possible to change when, you know, you've been told that you're annoying by other people. Change the behaviors. If somebody says something's annoying, then stop doing it. Okay. Let's go back to the essay. Loud, but this was 2002, and everybody with a Japanese car was doing a Vin Diesel impression.
However,
so it's not like
to
mine
justify
stood
that
out
behavior,
that much more
it's
than
hard that it's become the norm a lot.
Yes, yeah, it is hard that it's become the norm. So try not to. Anyone else's. I spent a ton of money on my car and was especially aware of its appearance. You can understand, then, why it was weird that I was routinely pulled over for a busted taillight. After all, that's the kind of thing I would have noticed and gotten fixed, especially if that taillight tended to burn out once a week or so. My parents had told me how to act when pulled over by the police, so of course I was all, "Yes, sir," "No, sir," every time it happened. That didn't stop them from asking me to step out of the car so they could pat me down, search for drugs, though. I didn't have a drop of alcohol until I was 21, but by that point, I was an expert at breathalyzers and field sobriety tests. On occasion, the officer was polite, but usually they walked up with their hand on their gun and talked to me like I'd been found guilty of a grisly homicide earlier in the day. A handful of times, they'd tell me to turn off the car, drop the keys out the window, and keep my hands outside of the vehicle before even approaching. I went to the University of Iowa, which is a very white campus in a very white state. It's funny, because most of the people I met there, who came from small-town Iowa, were really excited to finally meet a black person. And it wasn't like they wanted me to be a mascot. They genuinely wanted a black friend so they could learn about black people and stuff. It was nice. On the other hand, if I was in a bar and talking to a girl they didn't think I should be talking to, or in their drunken state they bumped into sober me, you'd be surprised to see how quickly some of these guys would call a complete stranger the N-word. Once, when I came home from college, I was pulled over less than a block from my... I'm reading Lord Duck's comment here. First things. Yeah, and Russia in particular, like, right now the whole world doesn't like what Russia is doing, but the individuals who live in Russia, because of their form of government, like, they don't even get a choice. I mean, at least here in the US, we get to vote for our president, and I'm pretty sure that that was not rigged, and we in the US chose our president. In Russia, they didn't get a choice, and most of the Russians, you know, probably wish it were different and are not bad individuals themselves. Yeah. Yeah, Poland and Russia have a lot of bad blood between them and a big negative history. I don't know how better to put that, but on an individual level, individual Polish people and individual Russian people should still be treated as individuals. Yeah. Yeah.
Don't blame the people, blame the world leader for the stupidity.
Yes. And yeah, I will not make comments on the U.S. and our world leader, although I think recently he said that he is not planning to take Greenland by force, thank goodness. But yeah, forgive me, I'm sorry. I live in California. Okay. I'm not going to get into politics. I am not a politics channel. This is about individual people and how do you do individual relations with individual people. And especially, I know there's a lot of people who follow me who are on the autism spectrum. And so sometimes this kind of thing that other people might figure out, although clearly as a nation, we haven't figured this out. But sometimes people pick up on it a little faster when somebody says, hey, that's an annoying behavior, please stop. And sometimes people on the autism spectrum don't pick up on when someone says, hey, that's an annoying behavior, please stop, that you actually need to stop. Or if you can't stop because of how your brain works, then you need to tell the person, I'm trying really hard to stop, but I did it anyway, and forgive me, and oops, I did it again. I should stop next time, so that they know that you're working on trying to stop being annoying. Yeah, because it's hard. And it is nice when you can be with your family and just relax and just not have to be thinking all the time about how to not annoy people. But then with your family too, you have to figure out, okay, how do I live in community with my family so that we can love one another and not push each other's buttons, and certainly not do it on purpose. Okay. German-Polish relations. Are you guys going to solve it right here in chat? Yeah, I am not from Poland. I have one friend, like one IRL friend, who grew up in Poland and moved here when he was 16, where here is the US. And then I have a lot of Polish people in my chat, but I don't actually know well enough to know what the stereotype is that people in Poland have about people in Germany. I do not know. Yes. Presumably you can get past as individuals. Yeah, I don't know if it's World War II Germany that people are, that the Polish people have stereotypes about, or if it's things that Germany is doing now with respect to immigration and all that. I do not actually know. All right. Well, I will let you guys talk about that in the chat, and I will keep the essay going. My parents' house. It was late, probably about midnight or so, but I hadn't been drinking, and it was winter. Okay, so I wasn't speeding because it had snowed that day. The officer stepped out of his car with his gun drawn, told me to drop the keys out the window, then exit the car with my hands up and step back toward him. I
I knew he was wrong, but I wasn't about to be shot to death down the street from my parents' house because my failure to immediately comply was interpreted as me plotting to murder that officer. So yeah, I stepped out and backed up toward the officer. He handcuffs me and refused to tell me why I'd been pulled over, or why I'd been asked to exit my vehicle. Only when I was sitting in the back of the police car did he tell me there had been reports of gang activity in the area, and that a car fitting my car's description with a driver fitting my description had recently been involved in said gang activity. Gang activity in South Naperville, committed by a black male driving a bright blue Mazda MX-6 with a gaudy blue and white interior? Yeah, all right. He was very short in asking me what I was doing in the neighborhood so late at night. I explained that my parents lived at that house with the glass backboard over there. He didn't believe me. He took me back out of the car and put me face down on the hood of the police car to frisk me. I'd already been searched once before he put me in the car. Then he spent about 15 minutes searching my car while I stood handcuffed in the cold. My ID had my parents' address on it, but he still didn't think I lived there. I could tell he wanted to accuse me of having a fake ID.
Good night, good night.
About half an hour after being pulled over, when he found nothing on me, nothing in my car, nothing on my record, he reluctantly let me go. He didn't even say sorry or explain that it was his mistake. He must have been looking for another black man with a bright blue Mazda MX-6 who was a gang leader in South Naperville.
Yes.
He sat in the street until I drove to my parents' house, opened the garage door,
that there's
drove
less
inside,
of that going on
and then
now
closed
with
the
body
garage door.
cams and the awareness.
Back at Iowa,
but
things were pretty
it
cool.
probably does still
the occasional frat boy would call me the N-word when he was mad at me in the bar. But I had a lot of good friends, and it's not like nobody had ever called me that before or anything. I was dating a girl when I went to college, and we broke up right before my sophomore year. She made sure to tell me she would never date someone outside of her race again when we broke up, as though A, I was representative of all black people, and B, I was going to have to explain to all black men why she was unwilling to date them in the future. One summer, when I got back from college, I had an argument with a good friend of mine. When I say good friend, I mean this is a guy I knew since middle school. Our dads used to work together. I can't count how many times I had spent the night at his parents' house. But we had an argument. The kind of argument most friends have at one point or another.
Still
This
happening in
time,
half the time.
he decided
it's
to
cops
get
on a power trip
really-
or racially profiling based off stereotypes.
Yeah. And I wish the stereotypes didn't happen. Why do we have the stereotypes? But that's what it is. And but also listen to what the guy says. When the cop says get out of your car, just get out of your car. Yes, they're in the wrong, but the way to fight that is later with a civil suit, not with your life. Oh, yeah.
Really racial about it. Started off by telling me I should be ashamed of my complexion. He later claimed that he meant I had bad skin, only I'd had like 2 pimples in my entire life. Then he said I belong in the ghetto, not Naperville. In the end, he looked me dead in the face and called me the N-word. And again, this is one of my closest friends. Since then, I've completely cut him out of my life. But it fits with the experiences I've had too many times. People can be totally cool for years and then suddenly decide they need to be super racist because they want to hurt you. They'll say they're sorry. They'll explain how you misinterpreted what they said. But the fact is, they reach for racism because they think it'll emotionally and psychologically destroy you. And that's what they want to do at the moment. During my senior year, I went to a game at Kinnick Stadium. I'd been to every home game since my first week at college, and a handful of away games, too. I'd only started drinking about 5 months before that, but my band had a show that night before, and my bandmates were leaving town that morning, so I didn't get hammered during tailgating. I didn't want them to call me for directions and have me be unable to help. We were waiting in line to get into the game. I was with probably 4 or 5 of my friends. While standing in line, a much drunker guy lost his balance and fell into me and one of my friends. I caught him and helped him back up, and he was pretty oblivious to his surroundings.
Also record and say that you're recording for your safety, 'cause I wouldn't trust a cop now to actually have a body cam on. Plus, if a civil suit happens, it counts as evidence for a potential case.
Yeah. And part of when we get to the end of this essay is people, like, we white people think, oh yeah, then there can be a civil case after this. But the part of the problem is they so frequently get dismissed. And black people feel like the laws don't protect them and don't help them, which is really sad. But yes, I agree. Record. Because you can record nowadays.
The officer inside the gate saw what happened and called me out of line when I got inside the gate. He told me that he saw me try to fight the guy in line and then said I was too drunk to enter the stadium. He told me I could either go home or go to jail. I told him I had no problem going home, but because there were only 2 more home games left, I wanted to know what I'd done to draw such negative attention to myself. Plus, it was pretty cold anyway. He got about an inch from my face and yelled, "Go home now or go to jail." I turned to leave, and then he handcuffed me. I wound up watching the Iowa versus Northwestern 2006 from the drunk tank inside Kinnick Stadium. Everyone else in there was either screaming, puking, or passed out. The guy who fell into me was allowed to go into the game. The charges against me were dropped when the lady who kept an eye on the drunk tank spoke on my behalf when I had to go see the judge. In 2012, I went to watch the Iowa game at John Barleycorn on Clark Street in Chicago. We watched almost every game there. I'd gotten some t-shirts printed up and went to my car to get them so I could give them to my friends. While coming back, I saw a Michigan fan absolutely beating the hell out of a Nebraska fan. They were both white. I ran up to the fight. I was admittedly drunk this time, and pulled the Michigan fan off the Nebraska fan. Dude's face was all bloody and messed up. The police were on the scene about 15 seconds later. Michigan and Nebraska both got to go home to cool off, but I wound up handcuffed and sitting on the curb. There were at least a dozen witnesses there who tried to tell the officer I was just trying to break up the fight and that Michigan should be arrested for assault. One of Nebraska's female friends even told the officer that I might have saved his life. Probably an exaggeration, but that's what was said. After about 15 minutes, the officer removed the handcuffs and let me go. He said he got a call there was a big fight breaking out, but otherwise I'd be going to jail that night. He said if he ever saw me on Clark Street again, we'd have a problem. I could go on and on about this. I could tell you about the guy who wanted to buy his guitar from someone who, quote, actually knew what a guitar was when I worked at the Guitar Center. At that point, I had a Gibson Les Paul at my house and an Ibanez acoustic, plus a Warwick fretless bass. I could tell you about the coworker who thought it was funny to adopt a stereotypical black accent, to apologize that we weren't going to have fried chicken and cornbread at our company Christmas party. I could tell you about the time I gave my floor mate a haircut freshman year and he, quote, thanked me by saying he'd let N-word cut his hair any day of the week. I could tell you about leaving the bar heartbroken and fighting tears when the Trayvon Martin verdict came out, only to see a couple of middle-aged white guys high-fiving and saying he, quote, got what he deserved right outside. These are only a handful of the experiences I've had in my 31 years. I've never had a black boss. I played football from middle school through senior year of high school and had only one black coach in that whole time. Not just head coaches, I'm talking about assistants and position coaches. I've had 2 black teachers in my entire life. One of them was from my Harlem Renaissance class, and another was for my sign language class. I've never been to a black doctor or a black dentist. I've never been pulled over by a black police officer. What I'm trying to explain is that in 31 years, I've seen 3 black people in a position of authority. Think about what that does to the psyche of a growing young man. I remember being excited just a few years ago when we started seeing black people in commercials, without there being gospel or hip-hop music in the background. Remember that McDonald's commercial where the little kid was pop-locking with the chicken McNuggets? Before you say it, I don't want to hear that you're, quote, sorry I had these experiences, because it's not just me. It's not like I'm some kind of magnet for all the racists in America and I'm some weird anomaly. This is what it means to be black in America. I appreciate that you're sorry for me, but I'm not seeking your sorrow. I'm seeking your understanding. I just want you to understand that this is real. We're not exaggerating it, and we're not making it up. White people often say that we make everything about race. That's because, for us, nearly everything is about race. It's always been that way. When I have a great phone interview, but go for my in-person interview only to be told that the position's been filled, how am I supposed to know that it's not just because they expected a white Iowa graduate to show up for the interview? When I have an especially attentive employee keep checking in with me at the mall, how am I supposed to know they're shooting for Employee of the Month, not watching me to make sure I'm not stealing? What do you think it's like when someone says, "You don't sound black at all," when I have a phone conversation with them and then meet them in person? What do you think it's like seeing Confederate flags on cars and flagpoles in northern states, only to have someone tell me I'm being too sensitive for not liking it? When we say Black Lives Matter, understand what that actually means. We aren't saying only Black Lives Matter. We're saying Black Lives Matter too. For the entirety of the history of this country, black lives have not mattered. At a minimum, they haven't mattered nearly as much as white lives. If a black person kills another black person and we have it on tape, the killer goes to jail. If a white police officer kills a black person and we have it on tape, the entire judicial system steps up to make sure the officer doesn't go to jail. It doesn't matter whether the black person was holding a toy gun in Walmart or whether the black person was a 12-year-old kid playing with a BB gun in an empty park. The police union steps up to say the officer was fearing for his life, just worried about trying to make it home that night. If a grand jury is convened, the prosecutor will present a purposefully weak case to make sure no indictment is reached. If, by some miracle, an indictment is handed down, no jury is actually going to convict that officer. That's what we mean when we say Black Lives Matter. I can only speak for myself, but I have no reason to believe that the officers in Minnesota or Baton Rouge will ever see the inside of a jail cell. If we can have video evidence that an officer pulled up, jumped out of his car, shot a 12-year-old to death less than 2 seconds after arriving on the scene, administered no first aid, tackled and handcuffed the boy's sister when she arrived on scene, then falsified the police report to say that the boy pointed a gun at him and that he only shot when the boy refused several orders to drop a weapon, and still not get an indictment. Why should we think that an officer who shoots a black man who had a gun in his pocket, or a black man who had concealed weapon on him, will face a trial? If a white man sees a 14-year-old black boy in his neighborhood, follows him in his car, ignores orders not to engage him, and then gets into a fight with him and shoots him in the chest and is found not guilty, why should we expect anybody to go to jail for killing us? It's just not realistic. It's a fairy tale. All you have to do is say you're afraid, and you get a book deal and a job as a commentator on Fox News every time this kind of thing happens again. That's why black people are in such pain right now. The deaths are bad enough, but having the feeling that nobody will ever actually be held accountable for the deaths is so much worse. And then watching as the police union, the media, and conservative politicians team up to imagine scenarios where the officer did no wrong, and then tell those of us who are in pain that our pain is wrong, unjustified, and all in our heads, serves only to twist the knife. If you read all this, I really, really want to say thank you. I know it's a lot to get through, but this is real. This is me. This is what my life is and has been, and I'm not alone. This is from dolphin-girl.livejournal.com /
There we go. Okay. So that is the Brian Crooks essay. Take that off screen there. And yeah, that's my annual Martin Luther King Day. Sometimes I do it during Black History Month essay. Just kind of help people understand. I don't know. Those two essays were interesting for me. If you have a different essay or writing that you'd like me to go over, then I am happy to do that. But yeah, may you all have happy lives where you figure things out and are nice to people. Be kind always. That is the goal. And with that, it is time to end stream for today. Yeah. Oh, Green Book. Okay. Yeah, I can't watch copyrighted stuff on stream, but I will give that a look. Which service is it on? Is it like at Netflix or Amazon Prime or yeah, I would be interested. Okay. Yes. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye for today. Let us end stream on YouTube and look for somebody to raid over on Twitch. And thank you all the people from Lamari stream who joined us. You kind of came in. Most of my streams are not nearly this heavy, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway. Bye.